Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started. My name is Matthew Matthias. I am Housing Program Officer here at LISC New York, and we're super excited to have you all here for the informational session for the upcoming NYLOP cohort. Right now, you can see my screen. This is our landing page for the New York Land Opportunity Program. So please be sure, if you haven't, to please get acquainted. It's at our LISC New York website. This has all the information regarding the RFEI, for your convenience. And we can get started on the presentation. Like I said, this is an information session for MDOs and FBOs to develop their affordable housing properties. And a little bit of information about LISC. This is our kind of slogan motto. Together, we work with residents and partners. We create and forge resilient and inclusive communities of opportunity across the United States. We create great places to live, work, visit, and do business, and enable family and just community development. The Local Initiative Support Corporation is a national nonprofit community development financial institution. That's for short, it's CDFI, and it equips underinvested communities with the capital, strategy, and technical know-how to become places where low and moderate income people can thrive. LISC New York, LISC flagship New York City office, was created in 1980. So over the past 40 years, LISC New York City has supported local partners whose services and programs aim to create a more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable New York City. We here at LISC New York City believe that the time has come to forge a future for New York City that eradicates the racial wealth gap for good and protects affordable housing for LMI New Yorkers and builds a pathway for meaningful economic opportunity for all. And so I'd like to introduce our Director of Housing here at LISC New York, Ms. Monica Dean.
Thank you, Matt. And while Matt puts the presentation up on the screen, I would just like to say welcome to everyone who's joining us this afternoon. We're excited to have you learn more about NYLOP and the request for expression of interest application process, and hear from you and answer as many questions as we can. So as Matthew mentioned, I am the Director of Housing here at LISC New York, and I oversee and manage with Matthew and my other colleagues the housing programs. And joining me this afternoon as part of this presentation, but also as the developer consultant on the New York Land Opportunity Program, is Jimmy Miller. So Jimmy has been working with LISC New York on this program for quite some years now. He has been doing this work in and around not only New York, but other cities across the country, and providing a holistic, strategic planning and development consultant to support mission-driven and faith-based organizations. He, in its prior roles, positions, he served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary to the Governor of New York, served as the Deputy General Manager for NYCHA and the President of the New York Housing Trust Fund Corporation. So I won't read Jimmy's entire CV, but you'll hear more from him as part of this presentation this afternoon. And so our affordable housing objectives here at LISC New York, we are specifically focused on supporting affordable housing opportunities that provide, where we provide financing and technical assistance, and we offer programs that supports our ecosystem that we're building to support community development endeavors. And so we have a host of partners that we work with while doing this work, and in large part include, but aren't limited to, community development corporations and supportive housing organizations, and a lot of mission-driven and faith-based organizations like yourselves who are joining this call to provide technical assistance and, again, some type of financing support. And so overall, our goal at LISC New York is to provide and create opportunities for people of color across New York State to access jobs and build businesses while really helping them to expand, preserve, and increase supply of high quality, affordable housing. And we do this through the housing programs that we offer, which include training to support our diversity, equity, and inclusion in the real estate industry in New York State. And so we issued this is now the second request for expression of interest that we put out for this new iteration of NYLOP that we created in 2021. 22 for mission-driven organizations and faith-based groups to help them develop their properties with the majority of the component, the focus being affordable housing. So this RFEI is a little different than the one we issued in 2022. We have decided to expand the cohort for the next iteration of NYLOP, which will include not only organizations and groups from the 5 boroughs here in New York City, but we are also including upstate New York. And so the cities listed here are some are the cities. These are the cities, not some, but these are the cities in which we are welcoming and accepting applications from this next 2023 cohort. So Albany, Utica, Binghamton, Syracuse, Buffalo, and Rochester. And of course, the 5 boroughs in New York City. Next slide, please. And as I briefly mentioned already, so the goals of the LISC New York NYLOP program, they're very clear, very simple. We are supporting faith-based groups and mission-driven organizations who are interested in using their real estate to develop affordable housing on property owned by them. So as I already mentioned, we're going to select at least 6, could be more, of organizations to include in this next cohort. Again, we will provide technical assistance and financial support to these organizations to help them develop, a pathway to select joint venture partners to assist them with developing housing on properties owned by them. And so some of the technical assistance that we provide, meaning that we resume the cost and take responsibility for ensuring that these services are delivered or through the team of experts that we have. And 2 of those experts that I've had the pleasure of working with and supporting NYLOP, one I already mentioned, Jimmy Miller, who is the development consultant, and our legal expert, Jason Bate, is also on the call as well, who is the legal consultant on this process, and also architects. So through a team of our experts, we provide technical assistance, financial support, development consultants, architects, and attorneys is some of the great benefits for this program. So organizations do not have to have experience with development. They do have to have property and a commitment to work with us during this process. And really be able, to commit to engage with us throughout the process in its entirety. And we can talk more and get into that a little bit further, but this is just an overview of the goal of our program. And I am now going to turn it over to Mr. Miller, who again is the development consultant. He's going to walk through the request for expression of interest. He is going to go through the requirements and criteria for participation in NYLOP. And then we'll have time to take questions. So, Jimmy? And Jimmy, you're not on camera yet. I don't see you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Jim Miller, Secure Consulting. As Ms. Dean said, I am the development consultant for the NYLOP program. I'm going to briefly go through some of the major aspects of the RFEI, starting with the minimum requirements. First, you need to be incorporated as a nonprofit corporation or be a church that meets the requirements of Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. As Ms. Dean said, you need to have ownership or long-term leasehold of a vacant or underutilized property located in one of the municipalities that was brought up earlier in New York City, Utica, Binghamton, Albany, Buffalo, Rochester. You need to have a history of providing housing, other related services. And again, you do not need to have a housing experience, but you do need to have experience providing services to your community. And last, you need to have the organizational capacity with our assistance and the assistance of a development partner that we're going to help you select to bring your project to fruition. And again, we can get into greater detail about these requirements later on. Next slide, please. The evaluation criteria, we tried to keep it simple and concise. We'll be looking to see if you've had successful experience in providing community services to the residents of your community over the last 10 years. You will need to highlight that in your response to the RFEI. We'll be looking at the quality of your references, looking at the quality of your overall response to the RFEI, and looking at your responsiveness to LISC New York's MWBE BIPOP goals and objectives. And as Ms. Dean said earlier, this is something very important and crucial to LISC New York's overall mission. Next slide, please. Timeline, very important. We're having this non-mandatory session today, and we will be taking questions from potential respondents through March 16th.
Hello. I'm sorry, I think we lost Jimmy.
3 p.m. You can send your questions to NYLOP at LISC questions by addendum, if there are any, by March 27th. Our responses will be posted on the NYLOP website, and responses to the RFEI are due April 3rd on or before 11:59 p.m. And again, late responses will not be accepted. Next slide, please. I guess we have some frequently asked questions that would be helpful in you navigating the RFEI. Again, you do not need to have prior housing experience. We're here to help you put together a concept plan and provide you with the legal and technical expertise you need to take your project forward. Does the property need to be currently zoned for multifamily housing? No, it does not. But we are looking for those developments and those properties that have the least amount of impediments possible, because one of the goals of this program is to produce housing. We do not just want to do concept plans. We want to produce much needed affordable housing. Does the property need to be free and clear of environmental impediment? Again, no. But again, we're looking for those projects that we can carry forward in a timely and cost-efficient manner. Next slide, please. Is there a minimum number of units that you need to be able to produce? No, but LISC New York does have program goals. So we're looking for, again, one or more partner to help us reach our overall goals of producing affordable housing. Do you need to have ownership of the property at the time of responding to the RFEI? Yes, you do. You need to have ownership of the property. That is one of the minimum criteria for the program. Liens and encumbrances on the property. The property should be clear of liens and encumbrances that would prohibit, again, us developing this project in a timely and cost-efficient manner. Can two organizations form a joint venture for the purpose of responding to the RFEI? Yes. In fact, we encourage you, if you need to team up with someone else with the relevant experience and expertise, we do encourage that. Next slide, please. So this is where we will entertain questions from the participants. You need to raise your hand. And again, you also have the opportunity to submit questions in writing, as I said earlier, to LISC New York by the 16th of March.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. Yeah, so similar what Jimmy said, you can raise your hand if you'd like. You can also put it in the Q&A section of the Zoom. Like Jimmy mentioned, I'd also like to include the NYLOP email and our emails for you guys to contact us. We have Monica Dean's email, Jimmy's email, and then my email as well as the general NYLOP email. The general NYLOP email is where I would recommend all of you to send your questions if you do have them. It's the most streamlined email that we check regularly. So it's the best email to reach us at. I know we have one question in we have two. Will the recording be available afterwards? Yes, we'll be uploading this this whole webinar to our NYLOP landing page, and the whole recording will be there as well. So you guys can go back, look through the deck, and familiarize yourself with the timeline requirements and everything. Demetrius Carolina has a question. Can we develop our property for both retail and housing? And I believe Monica or Jimmy can answer those.
Yes, in the last round, we do have properties that are mixed use.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just add, as long as there's an affordable housing component to the mixed use development.
Thank you. Barbara Talley has another question. Her question is there a minimum lot size requirement for these projects?
No, there is not. One should be mindful of what's the word? Economies of scale. And we do have a small lot in this round, and it does bring forward some difficulties, but no, there's no minimum lot size.
Thank you, Jimmy. And then Demetrius has another follow-up question. Can a house of worship build both housing and a church as a mixed-use project?
I'm glad I worked on this last cohort. So yes, we do have properties that have sanctuary space, and the impediments that we run up against is how do you finance that space?
Thank you, Jimmy. Melaine Rockford has another question. Is there a minimum unit requirement? No, there's not. John Flack, can we include requirements for environmentally sustainable housing in the RFP? Examples, passive construction, geothermal, or heat pump HVAC. This is about submissions into the RFP.
Yes, we welcome that, and one of the things that we put in the master development RFP when we get to that point is the need for sustainability as one of those components. So yes, that's something we will be looking for.
Perfect. Douglas McPherson has another question. What have been some lessons that the LISC and Sincere team have learned from the first cohort that RFEI applicants can keep in mind as we apply for this upcoming cohort?
Great question. Wow. Whee! Okay. Staffing capacity.
Definitely.
It's important that you have a contact person. It's important that you have someone that can be dedicated to helping us bring this project from here to a concept plan, to an RFP, to the selection of a co-developer. So we find that the absence of that person
Nice. Thank you, Jimmy. Barbara Talley has another question. Do you assist if rezoning is needed?
It is a key. But if you've been reached out to the organizations in your community, it's something very important. It's impossible for you to develop this project without having the support of your governing body and the support of your community and your municipality. So those are just a few of the things that we learned from the last cohort that I worked on.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. Carla Fisk would like to know, do you have written guidelines for the application you can share? RFPI maybe?
I'm not sure if I understand that. Of course, all of the guidelines for responding to this RFEI are embedded in the RFEI.
So once you look into the full RFEI on our landing page, you should be able to find all of the guidelines there on our application. Thank you again. Charlene Tarver has a question. Is there a timeline for the cohort? Are there classes, or do we work individually with our team on our land development project? How does the timeline for our project usually look like?
I worked on an example that Jason and I and the LISC team worked on recently. There is the visioning part of this process when the entire team of experts, myself, Jason, the architect, LISC, will be meeting with groups so that we fully understand what they want to develop and to help them flush that out. So that's the visioning part of that process. And then there's the engagement of our experts, our attorney to do due diligence, and our architect to work out the concept plan. That concept plan is a iterative process. It involves a lot of back and forth between the team members. But last time around, we found that we can typically develop that concept plan in 8 to 10 weeks. Again, having someone that we can communicate with and having a single contact that can communicate back to us. So that is that process of developing that concept plan. 8 to 10 multiple projects can increase that time frame to 12 weeks.
Jimmy, we're losing you. You're going in and out, but I think we heard the part of
and responding to our response on developing a concept of the concept plan stage. And then once you have the concept plan stage,
Jimmy,
we will work with you to issue a request. Yes.
Yeah, we lost you. So a whole, whatever you were saying, we got cut out. So.
Okay, we lost, okay, very quickly, visioning session, couple of weeks, concept plan, 8 to 12 weeks, RFP, we issue an RFP for you to select a co-developer. That can be about 8 weeks, evaluating the responses to the RFP for the co-developer, and then selecting the co-developer. We intend to have the entire process unfold between now and the end of the calendar year.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Another question from Paul Pert. Our organization already has an unfunded development project proposal. Would LISC entertain that in this upcoming cohort?
If you own the property, and we determine that you need our assistance, so the question would be yes, that would not preclude you from responding to our
And next question. Are there a certain amount, this is from Daryl Frazier, are there a certain amount of housing units that you need to provide?
I think that came up earlier, and the answer is no. Just be wary of economies of scale.
Perfect, thank you. An anonymous attendee said, is there a way to see all the questions before completing the project? It doesn't appear we can get past the first page without the attachments. If you're able to email me at nylop@lisc.org, I can help and assist during the application process. But it is a page by page application. So once you complete one page, you're able to go on to the next. Monica Sinclair says, do you take buildings down in order to rebuild?
Again, that doesn't, having properties that need to be demolished is not an impediment. Again, in this cohort, we do have a property that needs to be demolished. Again, all those things do become what's the word, constraints that have to be addressed. But no, that does not preclude you from applying.
Another anonymous attendee asks, if we've already created the plans, but we don't have a co-developer and are gearing up for an LIHTC application, should we and can we still apply?
So if you are already planning to submit a LIHTC application, so you're wondering, so you've already gone through the majority of the development plans. And so if the only technical assistance support you require is that of helping to identify a joint venture partner, which is what it sounds like that if I understand this correctly, we would still evaluate, each application individually. But again, the idea is that as part of this program that we are supporting and working with the organizations on their plans, not that the plans have already been determined. We've also supported organizations who said, well, I've already identified a developer, but they have not gone through the zoning and the conceptual planning process yet. And so, I wouldn't say don't apply. You can still submit, but that's not the ideal candidate for this program. And I think, so I hope I answered your question, anonymous person. So Matthew, you want to go back to Micah Hunter's question? Because I think we skipped over that one.
Sure. Micah Hunter asks, We have been a stalwart partner to our church programs throughout our affiliate program in building their capacity. How can we become a potential partner with church organizations that want to do affordable housing? And this is Micah Hunter from NHP Foundation.
I think what they're asking is when, right, so the second phase of this, if we want to call it that, right after faith-based organizations and MDOs have responded, been selected, received technical assistance, and worked with LISC to create RFPs that will go to development partners. How can NHP make sure that they are a recipient of those RFPs so that they can respond? Because this is something that they do.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted the question too, Micah. So if that is correct, we are more than happy, to just add you to our distribution list and make sure that you get a copy of the RFP announcements that we put out for this next cohort.
Thank you for the question, Micah. We have a following question from Barbara Talley. If we have started talks with a developer already, can we continue to work with them, or do we have to work with a developer that is assigned to us through LISC's program?
I think Ms. Dean was
Jimmy, yeah, I think you cut out, but yeah, I can respond to this. It's very similar to the question that I answered earlier. The ideal NYLOP candidate, the organization.
responded to that. We have a developer already in candidate.
Okay, so Jimmy's going in and out, and then I'm stepping in for him. So our apologies.
Thank you, Ms. Dean.
The technical difficulties. Oh,
That's what the teamwork is all about.
so yes, I hope, Barbara, you got the gist of the answer. And so again, we'll take these on a case-by-case basis, but again, the ideal candidate will be in need of, all of the technical assistance that's offered through this program.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We have another question from Paul Hart. Are senior housing included in LISC's goals for this program?
Could you repeat that, Matthew?
Yeah. Is senior housing included within LISC's goals for this program?
Yes, we have senior housing components in the current cohort that we're working on.
Yeah, and I would just add on to that. So, we don't have any, criteria or list of, the types of housing that our organizations, can develop. Senior housing has always been one of them, but supportive housing, different types of housing are, make up the development projects that we've seen come through the NYLOP cohort. And of course, senior housing is one of the, I would say, more popular types of housing that we see come through for the housing projects in NYLOP.
Perfect. Thank you. That appears to be all of the questions asked. If you do have any questions, please be sure to put them in now, or of course, you can always contact us at nylop@lisc.org. Any questions can be sent to us there, and we'll respond pretty quickly.
Yeah, but we're super excited on this next NYLOP cohort. We have a very good group that we're working with. Right now, combined the unit total for the 2022 NYLOP cohort is about 208 units of housing. And so we're, looking forward to working with the next group of organizations. Applications are due April the 3rd, so you still have time to get your questions in. We will also, any other questions that we receive, we will definitely upload them. So Jimmy, I think it will be helpful, Matthew, can you pull up the timeline again and just put it on the screen and just briefly review the timeline? Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
timeline. Yes, you can see the timeline. Next critical timeline is the deadline for questions, March 16th. Again, we'll take all of your questions, including those you have today, and they'll all be responded to in writing via the NYLOP website. The addendum that we talked about will be posted by March 27th. That'll be response to the questions. And moreover, and most importantly, the responses are due April 3rd, 11:59 p.m., 1 minute before midnight.
And it looks like we have a couple more new questions. Jason, I'm gonna have you answer the one from Demetrius. It says, would it be wise to have a separate 501c3 from the church itself for the development process?
So I'm going to break that into two components.
Mhm.
So if the church, the faith-based organization, or the MDO, and Jimmy and Monica, you can correct me if I'm wrong, should be the respondent to the RFEI. And it should be that entity that owns the property that is going to be used for development. Once, if you're accepted into the program, you go through this process and you select a development partner and go forward with development. If there is a faith-based organization or mission-driven organization entity that continues on through the development, meaning that you're not just getting space back or some sort of consideration, cash or missional benefits, etc., but you are to be a project participant, yes, we recommend a separate limited liability company, or you, depending on the role that you will play in the development project, you may need a 501c3 nonprofit that has affordable housing in its purposes in order to be eligible for certain benefits. So it will depend on what your role is and the specifics of the project, but frequently it is advised.
Thanks, Jason. Okay, Adrian says, is there a requirement regarding to the size of land? I think, Jimmy, didn't you answered this, right? And the answer was no. I mean, you have to, when you really get to assessing, the land and as part of the zoning analysis and process and working with our team of experts, they will be able to share and help determine, very early on, depending on the size of the land, how developable it is. When we get to that, so. Pearl, we are interested in my organization. Great. Pearl Hart of New Testament Temple, COG. Submit an application. During the interim, feel free to submit questions to us if you have any regarding the program. And the opportunity. Anonymous attendee, can you elaborate on what you mentioned about CDFI?
And I believe that was in reference to what I mentioned about LISC, that we are a community development financial institution.
Okay.
Yeah. Monica, do you want to explain a little bit what CDFI is?
So a community development financial institution, so we have lending products and services to support affordable housing. So we have, as part of our community capital investment team at LISC New York, we offer loans to support affordable housing development. So loans ranging from, we do pre-development loans, we do bridge construction loans. We offer a range of different, the loans to support affordable housing development.
Yeah, so we provide services that traditional banks or different capital organizations wouldn't typically provide. I believe that's the end of our questions. Thank you again for everyone who was able to come out today, everyone who asked questions. If any more do come up, like I said, please be sure to email us at nylop@lisc.org, and we'll be happy to answer them.
There's one other, okay, so the anonymous attendee, do you offer financial assistance other than loans? Grants. Oftentimes, we may have grants available to support affordable housing. We have a credit enhancement, a credit fund, but you have to pay that back. So right now we don't have any grants for affordable housing development. But again, as part of NYLOP, we cover the legal costs, the cost of the architects, and the expertise you get from the development consultant, who is Jimmy Miller, and again, Jason LeBate is our attorney consultant on NYLOP. So other than the financial loans, products and services offered through our CDFI, the Community Development Financial Institution, we do not have any grants available, at the time.
Oh, we have another question from Mike 100. Does LISC help the church partners set up meetings with HPD, the mayor's office, and other city agencies?
Dean can probably take that one.
Does LISC help the church set up meetings? Yeah, that's part of the process. So yes, that is definitely, we actually facilitate those meetings. HPD is one of our partners on NYLOP, and it's been, great to have our partners in the city and state government working with us on NYLOP. So again, it's part of NYLOP. We facilitate those meetings. I mean, I'm happy to stay on. We do have until 2 o'clock, but any other questions? Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any right now, but again, as Matthew said, feel free to email us if you have any additional questions regarding the application or the program. Reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to get back to you. So thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we are going to adjourn the webinar.